Your Words Destroyed My Planet, the stream series, the edited version. Originally streamed live at twitch.tv/dualitysdownfall. More information in the description. For Your Words Destroyed My Planet, Chapter 17. You and Dave didn't have any beds to sleep in overnight since the shuttle wasn't designed for that. In the end, you both slept in your seats, which, in their defense, are designed to hold you and are decently comfy. It's not like you haven't fallen asleep at your desk before in the past. You're not surprised to wake up and find Dave not asleep next to you, but you are a little concerned that he doesn't seem to be anywhere in the shuttle. However, now that you have communications working, you can just call him.
"Sup?"
Dave says over the communication channel when you connect. "Where are you? Are you outside? Do I have to get in all that winter gear again?" You ask him.
"Probably a good idea if you don't want to die of hypothermia, but yeah, I'm outside, just loading up the snowmobile for the trip. I wouldn't get changed just yet, though. I gotta eat before we go, and so do you,"
Dave says, and the line crackles with what's probably a gust of wind. "Right, I guess I'll get my stuff together in here then?" You say slowly.
"That'd be great. I'll be up in a bit,"
Dave tells you, and the line goes dead. Okay, well, that's Dave located, and you have a plan for the meantime. That's good. You stare blankly at the screen and feel reality kind of adjust around you. Everything you saw and everything Dave told you settles in place in your mind. It feels so enormous that you're not entirely sure what to do with it. Dave has supernatural powers. The void that ate your planet is haunted as shit and is personally hunting every sentient person down and eating them for fuel. There's this secret group of people who know all of that, and everyone else is ignorant. Looking down at your hands, you see the soft glow from your middle fingers. Under the film, you've got your own new tattoos, not that you can make out much detail with how murky they've gone. You figure that's plasma and ink or something under there. Either way, you're not keen to peel that off right before you have to eat breakfast. It'll put you off. You look around the empty shuttle room and narrow your eyes suspiciously. That's the other thing. Dave is haunted. What's worse, he's haunted by his shitty biological father, who, along with his mother, treated him like a science experiment. It's awful that Dave had to go through that, but it seems worse that he has to spend the rest of his life with the ghost of that guy. A ghost who could easily be in here without you knowing. "If you are in here," you say suspiciously to the room at large, "I think you're an asshole and I'm glad you're dead. I just wish you weren't haunting Dave." This would probably be easier if you had Aradius psionics and could see the fucker, since he's dead and not imminently dead. There's not a lot that you can do about this. "Also, Hal and Dirk are way better men than you ever were," you add spitefully, and mean it too. Nothing happens, save for you standing in the room alone looking like an idiot.
"Still gonna look into that exorcism thing,"
you mutter and walk off to find your bag. It looks like Dave has already taken his bag and both of the instruments are gone, although, now you come to think of it, you're reasonably sure that you saw someone else leaving with the guitar when Dave was still unconscious. You weren't really paying a lot of attention to it at the time, given that you were more concerned with Dave's well-being and pretty freaked out from everything that had happened in the crash. You grab your winter clothes and drape them over an empty chair, and then head over to pick out something for you and Dave to eat for breakfast. As far as you're aware, all the meals are basically the same in terms of nutritional quality, and no one says you have to have breakfast food for breakfast. The world is your pre-assigned selection of meals, none of which are oyster. Terrible metaphors aside, maybe you should just eat breakfast food. You've already got a shaky grasp on what time of day it is anyway, even though in quarantine they slowly shifted your schedule clocks along to better match the planet. You're just choosing between breakfast enchilada and birthday pancakes when Dave opens the shuttle door and climbs up to you. "How the hell do you make birthday pancakes without a pan?" you call out.
"The very existence of that meal kit causes Dad pain, and he's ruined me for pancakes, so I've only had it once. There's a little plastic kit in there that heats up through some exothermic reaction. They do have funfetti in them, so by all means,"
Dave says, and hauls himself up onto your level, which is impressive considering this planet's gravity. My wriggling day was a while back, though," you say thoughtfully.
"I won't tell if you don't." "Oh shit, you got enchiladas out? Gimme."
Dave says with enthusiasm and snags that particular kit out of your hands.
Birthday pancakes it is, then.
Aren't you half Mexican? You ask him warily.
Where are you going with that?
Dave says suspiciously. Nowhere. I was just... Like you said, this food isn't great. I can't imagine it's culturally authentic given all the weird space tests it had to pass. Wouldn't it be a poor imitation of Mexican food? You ask him curiously.
Ah, I see. You're concerned about my cultural heritage. Mexican is bro's side, and the food he raised me on is like partially refrozen and badly thawed Hot Pockets cooked in a microwave that was sometimes booby-trapped, so if I'm being totally real here, weirdly artificial food is entirely on brand with his particular culture. Also, I wouldn't worry, because Dad was always really into making actual Mexican and Spanish food for us when we could get into a kitchen. I'm good, Dave assures you.
You nod and peel back the seal on your ration pack. I'm kind of jealous that you got your dad's cooking so much. He's so good at it. Why doesn't he open a restaurant? I'd go all the time if he did. You say as you pick the individual parts of your ration pack out. Huh, there is a plastic thing in here for forming the pancakes.
Dad's got this whole thing about not shitting where you eat,
Dave says, and moves past you to fill his water flask from the shuttle's tank. I am 1,000,000,000% sure he did not say that. You laugh.
I'm paraphrasing, okay? Cooking is something he does for his kids because he loves us. Making cooking for strangers his job just isn't the same. Besides, he likes his business admin work, the details of which I'm always confused about.
Dave says, and sits down next to you again. I remember when June was in grade school with us, she was totally convinced that he was... You falter.
Some kind of street performer? Yeah. Literally no one knows how she got that idea, and we still give her shit for it.
Dave laughs. God damn, June, always good for a laugh. Although, there is always the risk that the laugh in question might be at your expense. You can't ever be sure. You feel a little bad that you don't hang out with her more. You're just not as good at reading whether she's actually annoyed by you or not, and you feel bad when you actually upset your friends. Thinking about it, though, that was the point in time when June was still going by John, although she was wearing whatever she wanted. But you were kids. You were pretty much all wearing more or less the same kids' clothes, so you could climb the jungle gym and do battle with that one pogo ride that you swear maimed someone new every week. But then one week she came to school and you were all told she was June now, and that was that. Little kids don't really care. You certainly didn't. Your main concern at that age was for her to stop hogging all the blue markers. But you guess it was probably good that she had her dad supporting her. Hal and Dirk were lucky with that too, you suppose. Was it... Actually, never mind, it's not really any of my business. You mutter, deciding not to ask.
Well, now I'm filled with burning curiosity, so you gotta ask.
Dave teases you as he carefully measures out the water for the various parts of your meal. Alright, but... Okay. Bro was shitty with Hal and Dirk. Okay, I mean, he was shitty with all of you because he was a shitty parent, but I mean about them being Hal and Dirk specifically and not whoever he had thought they were supposed to be. You start.
Ah, yeah. That was shitty.
Dave nods. But you ended up with your dad, and he's great with all that. You go on.
Oh, definitely. It took a while to get to him, though, but they put us with him because of his whole deal as... Hey, have you ever been in Rose's office?
Dave abruptly changes topic, throwing it completely. No? Why? You ask.
She's got this selection of flags. Pride flags, I mean. Gay for Dirk, lesbian for Rose and June, bi, trans, etc.
Dave says, waving his fork around as he talks. Are you the etc.? You ask teasingly, before your think sponge can catch up to your mouth.
Wouldn't you like to know?
Dave says, all faux smooth, and then laughs.
Oh boy, would you ever? Anyway, my point was that she has this one flag that Dad made for her. It's this rectangle of clear plastic on a little flagpole, and it's his flag.
Dave says. You falter. You're not good with all of the flag symbols or anything, even after Jade showing you recently. You're pretty sure none of them were see-through, though. That'd be an awful flag to produce or be seen at all.
Because it's transparent, and he's, transparent.
Dave explains, and you catch the joke halfway through him telling it, but it doesn't stop him finishing the punchline even after your groan of dismay. I hate that so much. That's the worst joke. Oh my god. You groan. I like that it works on 2 levels of terrible pun, because he both is a parent to trans kids and he is a parent who is trans. Every level of it is terrible joke brilliance. Dave laughs and activates the heating part of your meal kit. Not that you can pay attention to these crimes against pancakes. Wait, he's what? You ask in surprise.
Dude, did you not know? He's not in the closet about it or anything. I'm sure we've mentioned it before. He came into school one day and did a talk about humans and gender for sociology class.
Dave insists. I might have been out that day, and apparently I don't pay enough attention when people talk about that stuff. You say with a wince.
That's hilarious. Well, that's why we got put with Dad, because he knew what to expect and what that was like for humans and all that. Also, as an aside, just for you and me, it drives bro fucking crazy that Dad is way more of a man than him and a way better father than he ever was. None of us call bro Dad. We never did. He's so pissy about it, and I live off of that.
Dave says with dark glee. Isn't that hard for you, though, that you have to see him still? I know he's dead, and oh shit, it does have sprinkles. Your entirely sincere question is instantly diverted by a breakfast-based surprise.
Told ya. And, nothing I can do about it. Besides, there's that whole thing about the best revenge is living well in spite of shit, and my siblings are all doing great now he's dead, and he has to stick around and see that, Dave says, and pulls a rather disheveled-looking enchilada out of a pouch and puts it onto his tray. You pop your weirdly cooked pancakes out of their little plastic dish things and onto the tray instead. They do look like pancakes with little sprinkles on, and there's even a little maple syrup packet. You do read that carefully to be sure that it is syrup and not honey of any kind. The ship's systems run on silicone servers, and they feed the bees by having them pollinate the crops the agriculture departments grow to feed you all. The honey byproduct is perfectly fine for humans to ingest, and most trolls as well, but if you have psionics, then it can be a bad time. They're pretty strict about labeling that shit, so you're not surprised to see that this is syrup and not any kind of honey. It's a shame, really. You've been told that honey is pretty nice, but you'd sooner not blow a hole in the side of the ship and kill everyone? Then again, if you were outside, you could try it relatively consequence-free, but you don't have any, and you're not that curious anyway. The plan, then, Dave says with his mouth full, is the snowmobile is pretty much all loaded up, and we're just gonna blast over to Omega Base. From there, Polypa's gonna decide what she wants to do. Depending on how the weather's looking, she might want us to make our way over to Alpha Base to get it all running for when the rest of the crew lands.
This would have been easier if me and Cooper weren't on the same shuttle, you point out.
Yeah, well, he was supposed to switch when we got to the station, but that didn't happen.
Dave grumbles and bites his enchilada like it's the enchilada's fault. Why were we together? Is it a light-dark thing? You guess. Dave points at you, almost finger-gun-like. You gather he means that your guess was correct.
Yeah, we figured it'd be easier to do our balancing thing across the distance if the people on our shuttle were the same alignment as us. Coopram's about the past, like the rest of us.
Dave tells you when he's done chewing through his bite of enchilada. So, I'm the same then? How do you know that about people? Is there a test? Oh, that's what Marsty was asking those weird questions for. You gasp as it clicks together. Dave mutters, "Goddamn Marsty," and scarfs the last bit of his enchilada down in a pretty inelegant bite. As for you, it's time to cut into your pancakes and eat while Dave explains things.
Usually you can just get a vibe off of people. Most people are pretty transparently one or the other. Rose, June, and Hal are all future-y. Everyone else in my family is past-based like me. You, on the other hand, are kind of a point of contention. We've had people on both sides arguing for what you are. I was of the opinion that you were only very mildly one way or the other, but basically past-based. Aradia says the same, but she thinks future. Everyone who knows you and knows about this has their own opinion on it. I think there might be bets going on. Dave sighs.
And?
You ask, around a mouthful of pancakes. Well, you woke up and saw all of this when me and Aradia were doing our thing, but you said it was Aradia's song that got you, so you're probably one of hers.
he tells you, balling up some of his trash and tossing it in the bag before opening a cereal bar. Can I not be both? You ask him hopefully.
No, and I know it'll break your little duality-obsessed pump biscuit, dude, but you cannot be both. No one is ever both. You're just relatively close to neutral by the looks of it, Dave tells you.
Maybe I'm different, you say in a tone that is not sulking at all. No way.
You're special, but not different. It's okay. Anyway, we're probably going to be heading to Alpha Base after this, neither today or tomorrow, but with any luck we'll be in something a little more comfortable than the snowmobile,
Dave says. You have a suspicion that you're going to have feelings about that snowmobile and driving it through that much snow for that long. The two of you finish up your meal, pack things away, and turn off anything the shuttle doesn't need to keep on with you not here. It needs to keep its internal temperature above freezing, but not nearly as warm as it has been now. With all that done, you both get changed again and pick up your bag. Getting out of the shuttle is just as bad this time as it was before, and just like last time, you take the opportunity to fly down rather than deal with chunky snow boots and a ladder.
That's cheating, Dave calls out from halfway down the ladder.
You're just jealous, you shout up at him.
And?
Dave shouts back. Lifting your hand, you reach out psionically, your touch wrapping around Dave's body as you pluck him from the ladder and gently lower him down to the ground. He stares at you wide-eyed over the high collar of his suit and the balaclava over his mouth and nose. All you've got expression-wise is his eyes and eyebrows.
I'm so mad that humans never developed psionics,
Dave huffs, his breath actually ghosting through the air with his sulky words.
Says the guy with magic musical ghost powers?
You retort.
That's different. Yours sounds cooler,
Dave says with a shake of his head. He takes your bag from you and walks over to the snowmobile. The vehicle is hitched up to a trailer of some kind that's gently levitating. He takes a few minutes to firmly latch your bag into place and gives it a quick shake to be sure that he's got everything. As you look at him, you can't help but notice that Dave is still carrying certain equipment on him. There's a weapon of some kind strapped to his left thigh, as well as 2 pickaxes and a sheath of some kind on his back, not to mention a gun in a rack on the side of the snowmobile. I thought the wildlife on this planet was okay, you ask warily, and look around the shuttle just in case.
It mostly is, but the problem with the ships ahead of us doing small missions before us is they only see some of what's going on when they're here. They don't know if something is going to have seasonally migrated here in this time, or if the megafauna is going to go into heat and want to stamp us to death for so much as looking at them or something. If you assume everything is trying to kill you, then you're prepared or pleasantly surprised when it doesn't, Dave explains.
But you're prepared, but you're not expecting that it'll actually happen, right? You check.
Right. I don't like hurting wildlife if I don't have to. It's their planet that I just wandered onto. Like you said, the wildlife here is mostly harmless.
Dave nods and swings his leg over the snowmobile.
Mostly harmless, you repeat. You'd really prefer actually harmless.
Dave seems amused at your concern, but you realize that he is sworn to protect you, and also you have, eye lasers and shit. You'll be fine.
Climb on. There's handles on the side if you need them, but this thing accelerates pretty fast, so I'd say it's better to hold on to me. There's more of me to grab onto, and as a fun bonus, if you fall off suddenly, it's easier for me to tell, Dave says brightly.
Right, okay. You can do this. You approach the snowmobile and try to work out where to put your foot so you can casually swing the other leg over without tripping or kicking Dave in the process. It then occurs to you that you can fly, so you just float up into the air and drift down into place. You settle onto the seat, reasonably sure that you did a good job. You can't feel the handles Dave said about, though. There's something digging into your knees. Did you do this wrong?
You're gonna fall off instantly if you sit there. You gotta be closer,
Dave says with a roll of his eyes. He twists around, grabs hold of you, and hauls you right up against him. You're pretty sure your legs just passed those handles Dave mentioned, but holy shit, Dave's all but sat in your lap with you this tightly up in his face. You feel like you at least ought to take him out for dinner or buy him a drink before getting this close to him. Dave reaches for your arm, having to bend his arm weirdly behind him to do it. He catches your sleeve and hauls your arm around his middle. You catch on and move your other arm as well, so you're hugging him. There's no other way to put that. You're hugging him.
Alright, hold tight, let's go, Dave says, his voice a touch muffled by his thick clothing.
Below you, the snowmobile suddenly revs, and in a panic, you hold on to Dave even tighter. It's a good instinct, because the snowmobile lurches forwards and takes off through the snow at a terrifying pace. Dave had the common sense to lean into the acceleration, and when the pace evens out, he settles back in place against you. So, great, you have a bunch of adrenaline in your system now, and the guy you have a massive crush on plastered to your body, and you're going to spend a good number of hours like this. Fuck, maybe you can find a way to hack through the permissions of the space station and send a message to Carcat. Dear KK, Somnos is stupidly cold and also I'm in sexy hell. Please send help.
Something like that. Although, knowing Carcat, he would just laugh in your face, entirely unmoved by your plight.
Actually, hey, I know your message with Nepeta was really vague. What does everyone else think happened to us? You ask, raising your voice a little to be heard over the wind. Dave taps at something on his arm, and you hear a communication channel open up. Ah, that's easier.
Say again?
Dave's voice comes through clearly into your ear. Oh, that's easier, you say, feeling a little dumb that you didn't think to do that yourself.
I try to be,
Dave says casually, and steers around a small hill.
You try to be easy? Wow. You laugh. Wait. No, not that. Ask me the thing you were asking before I implied things about myself, Dave says hastily.
I was asking what everyone thinks happened to us. Your conversation with Nepeta was kind of hazy on the details. We flash-stepped through space, didn't we? They should have known that, right? You ask.
Right, so the people assigned to watch us are all in the know, the core team at least. They farm out regular stuff to everyone else, but they essentially cover our tracks if anything spooky goes on. People see the launches and all that, but there's a time delay to it. The Atuan would have seen us just blip out and go, but they'd hide that so everyone else just sees the small dot of the shuttle against space, which makes it pretty hard to tell anything with. I'm guessing they fabricated some engine problem or something, and with me being all, okay man, head injury and no fuel now, they have a little more time to come up with an explanation that tracks and get everyone saying the same thing. It's easy enough, and no one up there has to worry about us.
Dave explains. Don't you think it's kind of sketchy to keep all this from everyone? I mean, I get why the captain would want to keep the shuttle disappearing and reappearing under wraps when she's working stuff out to stop a big public freakout.
You start. That would be bad news, yeah. Dave agrees.
But you can't tell anyone about any of this? You ask. Dave is silent for a little bit, and if you couldn't feel how tense he was, you'd wonder if he heard you. After a little bit, he does decide to answer your question.
I'm trying to see this from your point of view, because for me it had to be secret when my parents were exposing me to all of this like their lab rat. I could see this stuff and no one else could, but if I blabbed they might, and then they would be put through what I was. Keeping my goddamn mouth shut was priority one. I could give hazy details to Rose, like I got locked away on my own or they kept asking me questions and stressing me out, but not details. Dave explains.
Can I just say that putting you in that position and doing all of that to you is just the fucking worst, and I'm sorry? You chip in.
Yeah, I know, but I get on the Atuan and get clued in about how the whole thing works as a proper balancer and not a test subject, and they explain that large numbers of people knowing and thinking about what's out there is like hanging up a neon buffet sign. It's not certain that it'll go that bad, but it really screws with the odds, so I hear that and I'm like, same deal again, so I just keep that shit on lock. Dave explains.
Whereas I see a huge, unsettling conspiracy with a secret order of people who are pulling all the strings. I see you've been told that it's super dangerous for people to know, and I get there could be a problem with the whole panic and mythology about ghosts and whatever. It'd be chaotic, sure, but we don't know for sure that it would be a buffet sign. You point out.
I have some evidence for it,
Dave says softly. From your mom? You ask him, a little hesitant to bring her up again, but, well.
She had willing subjects, people wanting to know. Scientist types at first, but for them it was all top secret, and she had some bad results from that too. Bad for them, that is. Good data for Mom, I guess, but if the question is, can we tell a whole ship of people, and you're thinking like a scientist, what do you do? Dave asks.
Oh, you hate this answer. You isolate a ship and tell them? You say, fearing the answer.
Can't do that to a ship of regular people. Think of the children, the free and innocent citizens of our great interspecies coalition.
Nah, you get a bunch of inmates, stick them on a ship, and then remotely pilot it so they can't get away, then you tell them everything. Dave says, with venom in his tone that you know isn't directed at you, but at his parents instead. That is horrific. Who the hell agreed to that? Someone signed off on that, you say, appalled at the idea.
Yeah, the Empress's former council was pretty cutthroat. I know Feferi's reforming it, and the humans have changed a lot, but the old guard is perfectly happy with shit like that. Bro wasn't ever fond of trolls, but he approved of how cutthroat the really old ones could be, and as long as Mom got funded, she didn't care. But yeah, she ran that test to see what'd happen. Only the one, as far as I know, so it's not exactly replicated in good science or anything. They panicked, started getting a lot of the symptoms that people get when they're too close to the void, and then all contact stopped. Cameras cut out, everything gone. When they got the ship back, it was totally empty, even though there's no way anyone could have got out. A whole ship of people vanished into nothing, Dave says. Wow, I want to say that one study isn't enough to base anything off of, but it'd be unethical as hell to do that again. It was unethical the first time, it'd be worse to do it again. They're not still doing that, right? You ask. Half of you doesn't want to know the answer. Feferi surely wouldn't ever sign off on that, but being the Empress isn't unlimited power the way it used to be. Your species are in a coalition, and the captains all have their say, and there are elected officials on each ship. The Empress can technically control a lot of the votes on ships like yours that are all troll, but some of them, like yours, have human captains who aren't so quick to agree to everything. But she wouldn't, right? She wouldn't risk some of your lives just to see what she should do with the rest, would she? Bro isn't doing any science anymore, what with being dead. Mom got real pissy about the whole having to follow ethical guidelines and scientific procedures thing after Bro got executed and we were taken away, so as far as I heard, she bounced like 6 months after that. A little after we'd left the ship, he says with a shrug.
Bounced? What do you mean? Ugh! You get the wind knocked out of you as Dave skids the snowmobile to a stop. You're about to ask him what he's doing when Dave stands up on the stopped snowmobile, dislodging your hands from around his waist. His face is covered up to his eyes, but you watch as his black pupils shrink into tiny dots in a sea of red. Anxiously, you turn to look the way he's looking, but all you see is tundra scrubland bordered by alien trees. You don't dare ask him what's wrong, because it's pretty clear he wants you silent here. Dave's hand snaps shut, and after a second, his head turns a little towards you, though his eyes still stay focused on whatever it is in the distance.
Ve vigilalos,
he says quietly, and you feel like when you get back you might want to start a Spanish course just so you've got an iota of a clue about what's going on.
Okay, we gotta go. I need you to look at this. It's real simple. Just turn this to run the engine, and it's left-right steering. You're smart enough to work it out. Depending on how this shakes out, I might need to bail off of this so you can get to a safe distance. So if that happens, drive about 500 meters away and stop, okay? Dave says urgently.
I don't know how to eyeball how far that is, you squeak, and you're blaming panic for that.
Far away enough that we couldn't yell at the top of our lungs and understand each other, then a little more. Dave tries.
Okay, I can do that. Why are we doing that? What did you say to Bro? I assume that was Bro you were talking to. You ask worriedly.
We're being followed. I knew there was wildlife over there, but I only just caught sight of it properly,
Dave says as he starts the snowmobile up again, and you quickly grab hold of him. What is it? You said it was all mostly harmless, you yelp as the vehicle lurches forward.
This wasn't anything we've been briefed on. They look decent size and mean as shit. Moving in a pack like that watching us means they're probably predators, which checks out because this planet has big herbivores. I sent Bro to go check whether I'm right or not, Dave says through the comms channel. You turn your head, and Dave's right. You can see these giant... It's hard to describe what they are because they're alien. Your best guess would be if you asked someone to assemble a giant wolf from a kit meant to make a polar bear and they had spare parts from other things laying about. You see Dave's point, though. They are definitely hunting you, and they are absolutely working as a pack.
Dave snaps something in Spanish real quick, and his left hand reaches for his gun on the side. Surely his aim can't be that good when he's driving at the same time, right? "I've got it! You just drive!" you shout. Tentatively, you take one hand off of Dave and move to grab the handholds on the left side of the snowmobile. As much as psionics like to move their hands to do things psionically because it genuinely does aid focus, you don't have to. Eye contact is pretty key, though. Dave is right. You don't really want to kill these things. You're in their territory, and they're just doing what their instincts are driving them to. You're just not willing to be lunch. The snow you're going over is a hard, compacted mass that merges into ice the deeper it goes, and you're more than capable of finding the seam where ice becomes rock deeper down. Even as your point of focus moves with you, that's still there. All you have to do is move it. The ice behind you explodes up in a solid sheet. It shatters with a massive crash, although the bits don't get small enough to be shrapnel. It's an ice slide of disaster that the animals yelp and sprint away from. Bird-adjacent life forms launch themselves from distant trees at the crash, and Dave skids sharply away from the explosion. Not that you two were in any danger. Dave comes to a stop and stares at the devastation behind you, and then looks at you again. "Remind me of your psionic level?" he asks as he glances back and forth between you and the now giant crater in the ground and the smashed ice mess near it. "I don't know. I never bothered getting tested. I don't care." You shrug. Dave pauses and pulls down his balaclava so you can see that he's standing there open-mouthed in shock. Evidently, it's important that you know. "Firstly, I am super glad that we had you on psionic blockers in the shuttle because holy shit. Secondly, that was legitimately the coolest and most powerful psionic display I've ever seen in my life. Seriously, I got goosebumps. Fist bump me immediately," Dave demands. You can't just leave him hanging there, so you give him a very mutually patted fist bump. "I'm gonna send the video file of that from my eyes to every other psionic I know and make them cry at how not as cool as you they are," Dave says gleefully. Your face is definitely yellow right now, and you're glad when Dave sits back down again to start the snowmobile up, still muttering about how awesome that was. You hold on to him again as you start driving once more, glad that he can't see you right now. For the next few hours after that, you and Dave talk a little about normal things, but eventually it just fades into you almost zoning out as he drives. Your think sponge almost going into power-saving mode as you absently watch the passing snowy scenery. In a moment of weakness, your mind lets a particular thought slide through. You're holding Dave's middle comfortably, not tight with terror, but a relaxed hold with one of your hands splayed loosely over his ribs. The treacherous thought in question is this what it'd be like to hold Dave in bed? It's not even about sex or stupid hormonal flutterings. Your mind just paints a picture of you holding on to Dave like this on the edge of sleep, close, comfortable, and everything you can't have with him. It'd hurt less if you were picturing something really inappropriate, something you could pretend is just you finding him hot or a dumb new crush. No, this is some deep feelings kind of shit. This is you wanting to build long-term skills to prove to him that you're worth him. It's you wanting to just be with him in quiet closeness because you trust him and want him there. It's not just a crush kind of feeling. You press your forehead into Dave's back and resist the temptation to scream in frustration. It's not happening. He already has that with Jade, and they're basically human married now. God, you hope that she at least appreciates getting all of that with Dave. Before you can get too deep into your personal agony, you feel the snowmobile slowing down, and Dave starts turning toward the tree line, eventually stopping near a cluster of trees with hard little red triangular leaves. "What's going on?" you ask him nervously. When Dave looks around, you're surprised to see him push goggles up his face. He wasn't wearing them earlier, and you didn't catch him putting them on during the drive. You guess the wind got too much for him, even with his eyes. "Gonna stop and eat, have a walk for a bit, and warm up a little," Dave tells you and climbs off of the snowmobile. He's kind enough to help you off of it as well, given how stiff and clumsy with the cold you are. Your inner suit is trying its best to keep you warm, but it's a hard battle to keep up with. At this point, your actual bones feel cold. Dave looks up at you without letting you go, maybe wary that you might topple over right away. His normally pale skin is smudged black around his eyes. Your eyes are black, you tell him. Dave pulls his iced-over balaclava down so he can give you his best snarky grin.
You're observant,
he teases you. Part of you wants to bite that smug expression off of him. The other half suggests just kissing him instead, and you sensibly do neither. No, dumbass, around your eyes. It was like that in the shuttle, too. You had black around your eyes. You explain. Dave puts a finger in his mouth, bites the tip of his glove, and yanks his hand free so he can scrub at the edge of one of his eyes with a fingertip. The grayish-black stain there shifts and almost crumbles away. You'd assume it was old makeup or something if it wasn't Dave you were dealing with. Is this a ghost magic thing? You ask him warily, and Dave laughs.
Nah, man, it's a cybernetic eyeballs thing. Equus had to screw with my tears to make it so I could deal with the cold easier. It happens to also make my tears super goth black. The wind made my eyes water enough that I decided to put goggles on, but I guess it kind of shows on my skin.
Dave explains and slips his glove back on. Oh, that makes sense. I would have thought that'd mess with your vision, though. You say thoughtfully, and Dave shrugs. Well, Equus knows what he's doing, and Dave's vision is clearly better than fine, so you're not going to worry about it. You shiver and pace stiffly along the tree line, trying to get your blood moving again through your cramped-up limbs.
Okay, chickpea and tempeh curry or grub loaf and stew?
Dave asks as he pulls 2 packs out. The curry sounds like it needs less dexterity from me, so I vote that. I feel like I'm never going to be warm again. You groan, flexing your hands with a wince.
Yeah, it can feel like that. I promise you, the base is nice and toasty inside. We always keep the habs at ship temperature at least, and on a planet like this, a few degrees warmer probably. We'll get there, you can have a hot shower, drink something hot, you'll feel just fine after that.
Dave promises. He sits down on the ground and sets up a little heat ring and pours water out of what has to be a heated container and into a metal cup of decent size. He gestures for you to join him, which you do in a graceless sort of collapse. You watch as Dave sets out your tray and his, dividing up the parts that need no prep at all and unsealing the parts that are going to have boiling water poured into them. With the snowmobile on one side and the trees on the other, you feel reasonably closed in and protected from the elements, which is probably exactly why Dave drove you out here. You look around at these alien trees, spot prints of alien critters that are soon going to stop existing completely. There's a kind of tragedy to that. Obviously, every planet lost is a tragedy, but the scope of the problem has always been so big and so far away from you that you couldn't really comprehend it. Now that you're down here, it feels so much more real. I might be the first and only troll to ever be right here, you say as you realize it.
Even more than that, you're probably the only person to be in that exact spot. Unless I walked through it a moment ago, I'm not sure. But yeah, you'll probably be the last too, most likely. I stopped here because it was convenient. People going back to the shuttle from Omega Base might not stop in the same place at all, Dave says, looking up from the simmering water. You try to formulate some kind of question. How does he deal with this? How do you deal with this? But you can't put any of it into words. You just look around at this alien world you're on and feel deeply sad for it. This is why people are safer on ships than when they're outside them,
Dave says quietly. How? You ask. Dave pours the water carefully into the pouches that need it and presses the heating elements below them so the fluids in them combine and radiate heat. When he's done pouring, he stirs each pouch of food in turn and talks.
Whenever we're outside of the ship, either on a planet or open space, you start understanding things. I don't mean mentally getting the idea, because you did before. Everyone knows that we're running from something that eats ships, people, planets, and so on. But when you're outside, you feel it. You feel that you're this tiny speck of life in an endless ocean of nothing, and we're running from something so big, and we don't know where to, or if there is an end to it. You stand on these planets and realize you might be the first person to do that. You go somewhere, touch something, look at something, and you're the first and probably only. There are things on this planet that no one will ever see, and soon it'll be gone. The scout crews before us take samples and photos of plants and animals they find to preserve something, just so it's not all lost forever. This planet's going to die soon, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it, or even me with all of my spooky ghost powers, as you put it.
Dave says, watching you intently.
And on the ships, he goes on as he seals the pouches shut again, people don't think about that much. They don't want to. I've been on so many planets, and maybe you thought about me or Aradia, and maybe you thought, oh, wild, they brought back a rock, and the planet it came from is gone, and that's nuts. But then you wonder what's for lunch, or you think about relationship drama, an argument with a friend, or when's that new book, TV show, movie, or whatever coming out. You think about that stuff instead, and fly through space playing video games, because it's better than thinking about how you can't do anything to stop this.
That's pretty fucking depressing. And doesn't that thing eat that kind of terror? You ask.
It does, yeah. Dave nods.
Well, how do you deal with that then? You ask. Dave smiles gently. He picks up your meal that's probably still rehydrating and cooking and turns it around so you can see the label.
I don't think of it like that. It's more like this. You, Solix, are an actual alien to me. We're two totally different species who manage to speak the same language and understand each other. We're on a world that's alien to both of us, and we're sat here, together, and you're about to eat this. This is a curry made by people from my home planet that survived the total destruction of that planet. It's a variant of a recipe that predates the end of that world and even further back. Also, it could make its way here to be eaten by you. And you're sat here where no one else has ever sat, looking at things no one else has ever looked at before us probably, and likely never will again. That's some pretty incredible fucking odds, man. And every thought you think, game you play, person you care about, and conversation you have are all only yours. And yeah, one day you'll die, and that thing out there won't care, but you did. You cared, and I care. The things that protect people on the ships, their day-to-day lives, and our different cultures existing and changing, all matter. It's not dumb distraction, it's the whole point. Yeah, this planet's going to be gone, but for at least a little bit, it got people here who felt things about it. I think that's pretty cool, Dave says.
Yeah, I guess it is, you say softly as you look around at the trees, appreciating them just so they won't cease to exist without someone seeing them. Dave gives your food another once-over before nudging the tray towards you. Before you can reach for it, he dunks your metal spork in the coffee that he's made you.
Thanks for that, you grumble. It's metal. It's really cold out here. If you want to hurt your tongue, go right ahead and lick the tray if you're curious, Dave says with a laugh.
Oh, right. That makes sense. You're not sure how long your food is going to stay hot, so you rescue your multi-purpose utensil from your coffee, lick it clean, and start eating your curry as fast as you can. Dave's right that having something warm in your stomach like that makes you feel warmer overall. The fact that it's spicy also helps, or it feels like it does anyway. Dave is set to basically inhale his food as well, only he pauses partway through and hastily swallows his mouthful as he taps on his arm.
Like a duelist copy, Dave says.
Oh, good. What's your ETA to Omega so far? Polypa asks.
About 4 hours. We've just stopped for food, but we're making decent time. Had a little trouble with some predatory species. I've sent the footage from my vision to my palm husk, and when I get to Omega, I'll upload it so everyone can see. Duelist made pretty short work of scaring them off with his psionics, Dave says, flashing you a smile.
Excellent. Good work, both of you. Kuprum has fully repaired Omega's comms, and we've been in communication with the Atuan ourselves a lot. I feel I should keep you abreast of a particular development, Polypa says, her tone shifting to something serious.
Sure, we're ready. What is it? Solix is up to speed, just so you know,
Dave says significantly.
Ah, he's letting her know that you're aware of all this space ghost insanity.
Control had the feed delayed, of course, and looped when we ran into problems by disappearing through the void with you teleporting us through to the planet, Polypa goes on.
It's not teleportation, I've told you, it's... Go on, Dave sighs.
Whatever it is, it's not easily explained. The fuel exploding was also a problem since it was observable. That's how Shuttle 1 knew where we were, roughly, because they saw that as we clipped back through reality. The problem is that your brothers noticed the feed looping and somehow got through it with permissions I didn't know they'd have, Polypa says grimly. Hal, he's in IT with me. If he thought the feed was bugged, he'd have the authorization to get in to get it directly.
You groan. I'm sorry, are you telling me that my entire family, that everyone on our shuttle's family and friends thought we were dead up until the point that Duelist fixed the comms and we connected to Shuttle 1? That they just saw us disappear and reappear with no explanation, meaning they saw the shit that I can do because they were looking so hard for it that the normal not seeing weird shit mechanism didn't work? Dave asks in a rush.
That's exactly what I'm telling you. We've limited contact back to the Atuan because anything we send out is public record. I don't even know what angle they're going to put on this, and obviously they can't tell us because that'd be public record too. It'll be a hell of a debrief when we get back to get our story straight.
Philippa says unhappily. Right. Understood. Leica out, Dave says, and taps at the screen on his arm.
You feel pretty bad for everyone who thought you were dead. At least they know you're okay now, but still. Shit, poor Karkat. He was already blaming himself for everything he could, so you're sure he's going to make all of this his fault somehow in his mind. He'll just have to go back up there and smack him in the ear for being so shitty to himself. Your attention shifts to Dave, who hasn't gone back to eating and is instead staring ahead in total silence. Now that you're looking at him, you can see just how tense he is. He looks like he's grating his teeth. Dave? You venture carefully, wary that this might be a void thing.
I'm good. My family just thought Jade thought the worst might have happened too, but she at least knows that things can go wrong even if she doesn't know about all the other stuff. My family's gonna lose it.
Shit, I can't believe
Dave says in a whisper. Except he left off partway through his sentence, and you can see that his gaze is focused over at the snowmobile. Hey, Solux, Dave starts. Remember how before you were like, oh no, it's awful that you're being haunted by your very shitty human ancestor who is not now and never was your father because he's a waste of DNA?
Not my exact words, but yeah. He's here, right? You ask, though you can't see anyone at all.
Uh-huh. See, I can ignore him most of the time. Literally, if I don't pay attention to him, he cannot talk to me. At best, he can pass across a concept when I don't want him to. I have to focus on him to actually hear him, and sometimes he does manage to catch my focus by mistake, so I hear him when I don't want to. Dave says, his words sharp.
That sounds really terrible, which is one reason why I was worried. The idea of the guy who abused you all following you around, saying things to hurt you, and you can't tell people is really awful. You agree?
Right, but normally I ignore him, and you'd be surprised how desperate for attention someone can get when the only other people they can communicate with are the Makaras. So I've basically trained him that if he wants to say something to me, he's gotta watch his goddamn mouth or else. But here I am, expressing emotions about people who love me being upset that they thought I was dead. He hates that shit. He hates me feeling things, hates me talking about my feelings, hates me knowing that people have feelings for me. He's just a bitter dead guy who no one misses. Dave says, but you're pretty sure most of that isn't for your benefit. And you're stuck with him, which is the worst, you say. You'd think, but here's the thing. He can't hurt me. He can make me have shitty dreams, but I can wake up, and he needs me alive or he stops existing, since his soul or whatever he has instead is stuck to mine. But I can make him go away, Dave says to thin air. Damara described it to Aradia once, how they stop existing when we make them leave, and they're somehow aware of not existing, and it's supposedly the worst thing for them, and you think a good incentive to not fuck with us. But Bro was never that smart. Dave hisses that last part, and with a gesture of his hand, there's this flash. It's like a camera flash. It leaves after images in your vision, only it's the absolute inverse of a bright flash of light. Asshole can stay in the agonizing nothingness out there for all I care. He can come back when he's not going to give me shit for having human emotions and actual relationships with my family and friends. I'm not here to listen to him disparage Dad or my siblings or you or Karkat. He can fuck off, Dave mutters and angrily stabs his spork back into his food. What the hell is he saying about me? You ask in alarm. Nothing real. He mostly doesn't care about you. The problem is I care about you, so you're just something he can attack to get under my skin. The problem is he has, one accusation he levels at any guy I'm even vaguely okay with that I don't share DNA with. Literally the only time he was right, as far as I know, was saying that Karkat was into me when we were teenagers, but if you're surrounded by a default bisexual species like trolls and you insist that every guy I come into contact with wants my dick, then eventually you're gonna be right. It's stupid. Like the boy who cried dick or something. Dave says, waving his spork around as he talks with his mouth full. Oh. Okay. On the plus side, you don't have to worry about Dave believing, bro, that you actually are interested in Dave. In fairness, he's probably right more than just that one time with Karkat. You do have some redeeming qualities, you say, as if you couldn't list them all. Oh, some, huh? Dave asks, restraining a laugh, although the grin still makes it through. Give me 3 to 5 business days, and I can maybe come up with at least 2, you say casually, and that does make Dave laugh. God, I needed that laugh, thanks, Dave says sincerely. If you ever need mild acknowledgement about the possibility of you having positive traits, I'm your guy, you say back. I'll put you on my speed dial as that. Not sure how it'll fit, but I'll make it work. That's what she said, etc. Dave laughs and takes another bite of his food. I'm sorry you have to deal with him, you say gently. It's fine. I'd say it's therapeutic being able to hurt him back, but I don't like hurting people, even him. But him being powerless to really hurt me and me being able to turn the tables is pretty healing. Normally he knows better than to keep pushing it that much, because I know he's actually afraid of being gone, even if he'd never admit it. Besides, he has to keep me alive, and his words are all pretty hollow. Dave shrugs. Yeah? You ask. He says I'm a pussy for showing emotion, but that's shit. Dad's the manliest dude ever, and he shows people love and affection all the time. He tries to tell me that I'm weak, but I protect people, so I'm not. Or that no one actually cares, but that's blatantly not true. Then there's the whole me not living up to my name, the whole long line of Dave Striders out there that they'd be ashamed of me. And first of all, he doesn't know that, because he can't talk to them. And secondly, I don't give a fuck about dead people's opinions of me, bro included. When you know all of that, it just all seems really pathetic. He's just this sad, dead asshole who actually thinks Mom cared about him and he wants to find her again. He's the pathetic one. So the shit he says usually gets no reaction from me, so he usually doesn't bother. It's just, with all of this, I was on edge, which made it easier for him to get through, and he likes to try and kick me when I'm down, you know, like strong and honorable people do. Dave rolls his eyes at that last part. What a loser, you snort. Right? The irony of Dirk taking his name, so he's the Dirk Strider walking around now, and he's a way better one than Bro ever was. Dave agrees. Maybe I should kill a locker so it leaves a ghost and I can shove him in it and lock it, you say thoughtfully. Dave had been drinking at that time, so what happens is he essentially aerosolizes coffee over the snow. He ends up folded over, double laughing. Oh, fuck. Oh, God. That's the best thing I've ever heard anyone say. I need that cross-stitched and framed or something. Dave rasps and then coughs a little. You sympathetically reach over and pat him on the back a little until he stops alternately giggling and coughing. I'm pretty relieved that you've got some way to defend yourself and that you know the things he says are shit. And as for everyone back on the ship, at least they know we're okay now. I can't do anything about it until we get back, so there's no point worrying about it, you suggest. Dave looks thoughtfully at you, like he's trying to work something out, and it goes on for long enough that you have to question it. What? You ask. See, this is why you had people confused. That's the kind of logic us dark side past people use. We don't see any point thinking about what's coming because future's all the way over there. No point freaking out about it. Just do now and base your now on your past, Dave explains. Are you sure there's not a secret third option for the present instead of the past or the future? Or both? You ask in irritation. Either or, man. And like I said, if you saw all that weird stuff from Aradia singing first, you're her side. It's okay, though. We can still be friends, even if we're on different teams. It'll be a touching sports movie where... Yeah, you're tuning Dave out now. I saw Vriska, too. You interrupt him as the tangent goes on. You what?
Dave asks, thrown off his nonsensical line of thought. When I saw Matuna, or was Matuna, she was there. You explain.
Oh, yeesh, I'm sorry, man,
Dave says with a wince. It's fine. I didn't feel bad about her, or Matuna didn't. You say thoughtfully. You've been blaming Vriska and Aranya all this time. It's not like you think about Matuna every day, but for a long time you'd have done anything to get him back and hurt them for what they did. Maybe you don't know the whole story. Ugh, this whole situation sucks.
We should probably get going again, Dave says after a little while.
The two of you quietly pack up and take turns watching the snowmobile so that you can have what is, in your experience, the coldest bathroom break you've ever had in your life. After that, you're back on the road. The road here is metaphorical, of course. It's all frozen tundra in every direction, so you watch the predictable scenery slide past as you continue on your way. You have your arms around Dave's middle and your face pressed close to his back.
Hey, we're nearly here,
Dave says some hours later. You straighten up a little to look over his shoulder, and sure enough, you can just about make out the artificial shape of Omega Base. How much detail can you see that in anyway? What kind of zoom have you got? I never really thought about how powerful your vision might be until you did that whole stare into the trees thing earlier. You ask him curiously.
I can make out the panels on the building from here,
Dave says simply. Fucking hell.
Wait, does this mean you can see me in god-awful high definition, every pore in people's skin and everything?
You ask in horror.
I'm pretty sure you can see people's pores and stuff anyway, right? Like, there's advertising about stuff to do with that. I could probably look super close if I wanted to, but I've never wanted to. I can see people, and that's all I need. Actually, I think I have looked super close when I've done first aid for people before and when I do tattoo work, but I was just focused on that mentally, and I guess my eyes went with it. I can't really tell you what it's like seeing like I can compared to normal vision, because I've never had that.
Dave explains. I get that. My vision's not great, but it's better than yours was, and even then I can remember getting glasses when I started preschool and being like, oh shit, you can see leaves on trees? What? That was a change for me. You agree.
I know, right? For me, it was just realizing just how expressive people's faces were. Even now when I'm reading people's emotions, I'm not great if I can't hear them. Body language I'm okay at because that's big enough scale that I'm used to it, but small facial expressions threw me for a while. It took time for me to link up how people sound to those kinds of expressions, he tells you.
That's crazy. I can't imagine basically gaining a whole new sense, you say in wonder.
Up until a few days ago, you weren't seeing void stuff, so you kind of have gained a whole new sense. Just, most people see it visually, so it doesn't seem like it.
Dave shrugs. Alright, fair point. You shrug. The two of you are drawing close to Omega Base now. Dave slows down, and you lean back to hold the handles instead of him so he can twist and look about more easily as he finds a place to set the snowmobile down. As he's driving through the base, you make sure you get a better look at the place. Omega Base, and you presume Alpha Base too, was built by terraforming and construction drones. Fully Alternian fleet ships still have some of them, and since they're almost entirely organic, you guess they're better placed to be able to build things. The same drones that constructed Alternian buildings when the planet was only populated by kids now build habitats for sailors on distant worlds. The design is very Alternian, of course, favoring organic shapes and often hexagonal structures. As such, Omega Base is violently purple, although a lot of it is plastered with snow particles now. The base is about 2 stories high, with a higher lookout point in the middle. The whole thing is one unit, with an additional area hastily covered with sheet metal that seems to have a few large vehicles poking out of it. Around the base, there are communication satellites, little droid hubs, transport vehicles, and stacks of shipping containers. Dave steers you both toward a fleet of snowmobiles and slides into place. You stumble off of the snowmobile first, with Dave following after you, seeming pretty stiff-jointed himself.
Civilization at last,
Dave sighs. Oh, am I uncivilized then, huh? You ask in mock offense.
Hey, I've heard the arguments you and Hal have, Dave says lightly as he unhooks the trailer. You try for a moment to connect those two statements, but you give up. Yeah? You say. They're pretty savage. Dave snickers. You're pretty sure a joke that bad legally entitles you to kick Dave in the knee, and if he doesn't like it, he can take it up with your legal counsel. You go to kick him, but Dave swiftly dodges out of the way, and in a move too fast for you to see, he kicks your legs out from under you. Before you can hit the floor, Dave catches you by snagging a fistful of your thick winter coat. Gotta get up earlier in the day to get me like that, Dave says with vengeful glee, and then drops you on your ass in the snow. Oh, you're gonna destroy him for that. You're gonna get even, and you're not gonna do any of that, because he doesn't need or want a kismesis, let alone one flicking between red and black when he already has a girlfriend. You gonna get up? Dave asks as you flop backwards on the hardened snow, defeated by the hopelessness of your feelings. No, I'm gonna stay down here forever, you mumble. Well, since you're down there, grab the battery out of the snowmobile, because we gotta charge it in the hab, and something charging capacity, something temperature, I forget. I just know we gotta bring them in for charging, and the batteries don't like the super cold or something, but most importantly, if I leave them out here, Polypa and or Nepeta will put me in a headlock, and I try to avoid that. Dave says, in a way that makes you think this has absolutely happened before. Fine, you say reluctantly, and roll over to face the snowmobile. Popping the battery out is no problem. You studied all of the tech you were bringing with you so you could fix it. You pull the battery out and drop it on your chest, letting it roll into your lap as you sit up again. Dave has his balaclava pulled down again now, and you can see the amused little expression on his face properly. He stands up properly, one hand on the now detached trailer's cable. Are you done sulking now? Dave asks teasingly. Absolutely not. I have, however, elected to sulk inside where it's warm. You inform him and float yourself up and onto your feet. Smart man, Dave nods. He turns, pulling the still floating trailer after him and towards the habitat building. Dave presses a button to enter without needing a code, although you suppose it's not like there's anyone on this planet who's gonna break in. Anyone here is already allowed in. The doors slide open with a whoosh, allowing the two of you inside. Through that first set of doors, there's a square room with a grated floor. Instantly, the air on your face is warmer, and you sigh in blissful relief to feel it. Dave pulls the trailer into a corner of the room and turns the levitation feature off. Once it's clunked to the ground, he grabs your bag and passes it to you before grabbing his own. This way. You gotta take your outer clothes off. That way everything in there stays dry. Also, they send down clothes in all of our sizes for wearing in the hab, so it's not just undersuits the whole time. I mean, you can, but I like the sweats they have. Dave explains casually as he pulls his winter gear off bit by bit. You do the same and hang your clothes up next to Dave's. You don't enjoy the feeling of the grate under your feet, so you opt to float instead. From there, Dave leads you through a second door into what seems to be the main habitat. Walls of cheap but reliable monitors display the weather, current positions of people, droids, and vehicles, as well as information from the space station above. Through an open door off to the side of that wall, you can see Kupram at a table working on a drill arm that takes up the whole table. To your right, you can see people sat down at tables eating meals from their trays. Dave, Solux, it's good to see you both, Polypa says, walking up to you both. Hey boss, we made it. I've got the footage of that animal that wanted to make sure we didn't, Dave says. That'd be good, actually. Come on, let's get you two something hot to drink and you can show me, Polypa says with a wave of her hand. Dave goes in the direction Polypa was indicating, and so you follow along. Dave's your supervision, so you can't really wander off without him, at least not right away. Polypa takes you both into another room with a few of the science team sat down working away. She beckons a few of them over as she approaches a console. She asks one of the people in the room to grab 2 coffees and then turns to face the screen. Show me? Polypa asks. Dave nods and lifts his palm husk. He scrolls about for a few moments and then flicks a file across to the console you're in front of. An image appears on the screen in incredibly high definition,
It's the snowy landscape that you went across before. The image flicks from Dave's hands on the handlebars of the snowmobile to the distant tree line, the image jolting this way and that as he scans the trees. Something jerks his attention back, and the image rapidly sharpens and pulls in to show something in the trees, as well as a few other somethings as well. Dave's vision snaps back to the snow ahead of the snowmobile before flicking back, and now you can see what he could, that the animals were stalking you through the trees, running in formation to keep up. He looks back at the snow before you again, and you see him pull back on the speed, glancing over at the tree line now and again as he does. As soon as he's stopped, he stood up and looking out at the tree line, picking out greater details in the creatures back there.
I thought it'd be good if we could have gone over there and seen, but,
Dave says, and you realize that people in this room must not all know what you do. One of the scientists comes back and presses a coffee cup into your palm, and another to Dave, who is still watching his own memory on the screen. Dave's visual focus on screen shifts from seemingly nothing to you, and it's weird how his focus jolts around when he looks at you. You've seen visual motion capture data before, the strange ways people's eyes move over the things they look at to get the data they need. He's probably reading your expression, but mostly he just seems to look you in the eyes as he explains what's going on. It's a little reassuring to see that you're not visibly fawning over him or anything. You just look a little confused and alarmed. You've already seen all of this, though, even if you haven't seen it from Dave's point of view. Instead, you look around the room. Most people are either out of their undersuits and in the uniform sweats that Dave told you about, or they're wearing a piece or two over their undersuits. Pretty uniformly, though, you can see that people don't have their gloves on still. Looking at Polypa, you can see that she has glowing throwing stars inked over each of her knuckles on both hands. One of the scientists has a small bird on each, while her neighbor has nothing. Further away, you can see hints of that glow, but people are too far to make the details out.
You never mentioned your psionics were that powerful,
Polypa says, dragging your attention back to her. Looking at the screen, you can see that you'd just scared the animals away. I don't know how powerful they are exactly, you say simply.
He's never been tested,
Dave adds.
Well, you should. That was...
Polypa says in awe as she winds the footage back. I don't want to, and I don't have to as far as I'm aware, you tell her.
You don't need to. It's pretty obvious you're in the same tier as Astasia, but you don't actually have to get the finer details if you don't want to,
Dave says casually, and you wonder if he's put two and two together.
You could be a lot more useful if we knew exactly what level you were at,
Polypa points out, and Dave winces. My Dancestor tested himself. He was the most powerful psionic on the ship, you say stiffly. Mituna always did want that high score. Polypa opens her mouth and then falters, her eyes widening. Yeah, he got tested, and now he's plenty useful. You're not about to put a target on your back, even if you've already got one, thanks to being Mituna's Dancestor and Psionic's descendant. Besides, if anyone wants to try to take you for the same reasons, then you intend to vaporize them.
So, we're gonna go put our stuff away, get changed, maybe shower and eat, then I guess you're gonna want to tell us where we're going?
Dave says, changing the subject with determination to not fall into this conversational black hole.
Of course,
Polypa says and nods at the two of you.
Cool. Come on,
Dave says and turns away from Polypa, leading you away with him. You go with him, of course, and follow his path, although he seems to know where he's going. Do you know where you're going? You ask out of curiosity.
Not exactly, but the habitats are all built pretty similarly in terms of how they lay stuff out. I'm sure there's some formula about optimal placements of things and how wiring and plumbing and all of that fits together. We should be upstairs,
Dave explains as he locates the stairwell and goes on up. When you're upstairs, Dave goes down the hall until he finds a room with a blank plaque outside of it, whereas the others had call signs written on whiteboard marker on them. He elbows the button to open the door, his arms still holding his bag and drink, and then backs into the room. Dave drops his things at the bottom of one bed, leaving you the other. The room isn't especially big. It's essentially 2 basic beds, a locker each, and not much else. Behind you, the door clicks shut, and Dave turns to face you.
About what Polypa said. She didn't mean it, or I guess she didn't know it was... Dave starts.
It's fine. I don't really want to talk about it, you say, and drop your things on your bed.
Okay, that's cool. I get that. I mean, talk about what? There's no what to talk about. Nothing happened. I know nothing at all,
Dave says, and steps out of the room to write your call signs on the door.
Smooth. You know, like sandpaper. I'm gonna grab his clothes,
Dave says, and disappears down the hallway. Dave, what? Okay, he's just gone. That's Lonk's voice. You stick your head out of the door, and Lonk's gaze shifts from the direction Dave left in to focus on you. Ah, that answers the other question I had. How did you find the trip back here? Lonk asks as he lets himself into your new room and sits down on Dave's bed. In terms of clothing, he's elected for a thick jacket over his undersuit in a way that Kanaya would probably describe as very fashionable. Maybe? See, you're not fashionable enough to know that sort of thing. How was the trip back? I noticed neither of you died. Lonk asks, prompting you again with a slightly impatient expression on his face. Some big animals tried to change that. Otherwise, it was mostly just long, cold, and boring, you say with a shrug. I suppose you and Dave have had a lot to talk about, Lonk says carefully. Ah, you have a few attempts and managed to unseam the gloves from your suit to show him one of your healing tattoos. Not that you can make out much through the film now. We covered a lot, you agree, and look at the symbols on his hands. God, you can't place them. You think it might be a gender one, like a human symbol for it? You're bad with that stuff. So, what side are you? We've been dying to know, he asks with a curious smile. I don't really agree with the side thing. I think either works, or both, or neither. I don't know. Dave says because I had a response to a Radia song that I'm her light future side or whatever. You sigh and sit down on your own bed. You don't agree? If you think you're more past-based, do let me know, because I may have some money riding on this, Lonk says with a devious smile. I don't get why it has to be one or the other, you tell him. Normally I would be all for crossing boundaries and defining things however fits, but in my experience people are one or the other, and it doesn't change, he says with a little smile. That's hoofbee shit, and how does he know it's Aradia that did it and not me being close to him when things went weird? It's not like I can see, his ghost. You mutter that last part. You know the door's shut by now, so you won't be overheard, but you still don't know if Dave tells everyone that it's bro or not. That might have just been for you. You mean bro? No. No one can see him aside from the other balancers, and I get the impression that it's something of a mercy that we don't. Lonk says, with an expression of disgust marring his face. The door opens, making you jump a little. It turns out that it's just Dave returning with clothes, and he doesn't seem all that much surprised to see Lonk in the room with you. Always happy to see you're not dead, even if you had to go through the ordeal of Marsty's lips on yours. Don't worry, I won't tell Jade of your ventures into infidelity with Marsty. Lonk teases him.
Oh, yeah, man, Jade's gonna be so jealous. Nothing better than making out with someone who's unconscious, and by making out, I mean forcing air into their mouth so they can hack up aspirated blood, possibly on you. Yeah, it's just the hottest thing, Dave says as sarcastically as he possibly can. He drops clothes on the bed next to you and turns to face Lonk properly once more. We were discussing which way Solok swings, Lonk explains. Did he say both? I have good money on him saying both whenever you give him an either-or option, Dave says, and starts picking clothes out of the pile. It was more me saying the system is dumb and I don't subscribe to it, you answer. The more experience with it all that you get, the more it'll become clear. Don't worry about it for now. I got you a few things you can choose from, Dave explains, and waves at what remains of the pile. Did Polypa get a chance to tell you her plans? Lonk questions him, moving the topic on. I had to fill her in on some wildlife and then said we were going to get set in before she laid it down on us. Do you know something I don't? Dave asks. I do. The way I hear it is that there's a path between here and Alpha Base that got mostly terraformed flat. Still icy, of course, because everything here is. She wants us to take a good number of the crew over to Alpha, get them all set up, and get the mining tech there running and ready for Shuttle 1 to land, which means getting the space elevator up and running too. Then, when they land, half of their people stay there and half come back, the end result being both bases get running sooner, even if it's at half capacity. Today, we've mostly been getting here running and recapturing the machines that went wrong, which, if I'm guessing right from how stressed Cuprum is, that's a lot of them. Lank explains. We roll out over there, prep the landing site, and fix whatever shit show is going down at Alpha then? That's about what I thought she was gonna say. How many trucks are we taking then? What kind of tech and what kind of time? Dave asks.
You watch him as he talks to Lank. It's not as if you never see Dave being serious, but when he's like this, he's so focused and practical, every move assessed and calculated. You're so used to Dave when he's off duty that it's weird seeing him in work mode. Not that you're complaining. Dave is clearly good at what he does, and he's dedicated to it. Even if you're not actively gawking at him, you can't deny that seeing him in his element is anything less than attractive.
Though, the tight undersuit clinging to his body certainly doesn't hurt. So, time for food, a last chance to go to the ablution block here in the warm, and then out to get as many hours before dark then? Dave says, dragging your attention back to the things he's saying instead of just how he looks when saying them. Pretty much. At least the trucks are comfier than the snowmobiles, and warmer too. Lank shrugs. I'm in favor of warmer, you say as you pull a hoodie on. How do you think I feel? I start off colder than you already. I'll scrub your names off of the door and get the rest of the crew together for a meal. Camille was waiting until you got here to start cooking anyway, Lank says with a nod and gets up. Right, well, I'm gonna sleep for half an hour at least, because if I have to drive for another 8 hours without at least getting some kind of rest, I'm gonna be kind of unpleasant to be around, Dave says, and falls face down onto his bed. So, the food then? You ask uncertainly. When you're in the habitat, you get sent bigger meal kits that get properly cooked by a person. They're usually a lot better than the individual ration packs, because it involves actual food prep. Camille is a legend at making that stuff taste great. I'm sure they'll come find us when it's time, Dave says, though slightly muffled through his pillow. Okay, cool. I might go see what Cuprum is doing then and let you sleep, you tell him. You're the best, he mumbles. You find a pair of sweats that look fine, as well as some indoor slip-on shoes. You're a little touched that Dave somehow memorized your size. With that done, you slip out of the room, turn the light off, close the door, and write, "Dave's sleeping, go away," on it. It's not hard to retrace your steps to where you saw Cuprum, but all the same, it's nice to see the relief on his face when he sees you. "Somnos breaks all my fucking toys!" he says loudly as you step inside. "I bet. Let me help. Apparently I'm going to Alpha soon, so I may as well be useful here before we leave," you say. Cuprum is happy for the aid you can offer, and the pair of you fall into an easy rhythm fixing the small mechanical problems, or fixing the software problems that crop up. You're pretty relieved to find that it's all stuff you're comfortable with handling, which eases the pressure of being on your own at the other base. Normally you don't worry about getting things fixed immediately, but knowing that each container of resources that you get out of this planet saves more Carapacian lives ups the pressure considerably. As it is, you and Cuprum are getting mining equipment fixed at top speed and handing the fixed items off to other sailors who then take them out and presumably put them to work, and other sailors haul in the next thing to be fixed. You're manually rebooting an extraction bot when movement in your peripheral startles you. You look up and see Dave, sleep-tousled white hair and dark eyes looking down at you with friendly affection. It's enough to make your blood pusher ache. "Food's ready if you are," Dave says, his voice kind of rumbly. "Yeah, just let me finish this. Cuprum, this one's done now. I'm gonna eat and go," you call across the lab. Cuprum gives you a thumbs up as he continues typing away at his husktop with the other. You get your feet back under you and stand up fast enough that your head almost spins a little. Either you're hungrier than you thought, or the planet's stronger gravity is having more of an effect on you than you had previously thought. Dave leads you out of Cuprum's repair lab and into a makeshift dining area. It looks like you're with Dave's little crew again, as well as a few of the science types whose names you honestly don't recall.
They probably know your name, but they've only had to learn one new name. You've had to learn a whole bunch, so you refuse to feel bad, and as soon as you're wearing clothes with your call signs on them again, you're just gonna cheat and check their name tag. Dave is right that Camille makes a mean meal. It's certainly got more flavor and substance than anything else you've eaten so far. You definitely clear your plate completely, relishing the warmth in your digestion sac that you hope will heat you even after you leave the habitat. You get to test that soon enough, as you all have to trudge out into what you're pretty sure is basically a heat airlock and change out of the borrowed sweats and instead back out into your winter gear. From there, you trudge back outside, and you and Asdaja get to speed up the process of loading up 2 trucks by getting people to point to what they need in the back and psionically grabbing them and dropping them in place. As you get in the trucks, you find there's seating enough for your group if you sit 3 in the back and 3 in the front. You're in the back with Asdaja and Conil, with Dave, Marcy, and Lank up front. Lank opts to drive until sundown, so Dave pretty happily slides down in his seat and falls back asleep. Conil pillows her head against the side of the truck with her hat, and her mate Sprit nuzzles in against her side to sleep as well. Marcy glances back at you and must catch your confused expression. There's an old adage with this job. Never run when you can walk, never walk when you can stand, never stand when you can sit, never sit when you can lay down, never lay down when you can sleep. When we get to Alpha Base, we'll have a lot of work to do, and we might not have time to break for a while, so getting sleep when you can makes you work better. I've got to stay awake to make sure Lank does, and when Dave's driving, we'll have other people switch over, so everyone gets a few hours. Marcy advises you. You can see the logic in that, even if it might completely break your sleeping pattern. You snuggle into your jacket as best as you can and slouch down in your seat a little. Lank was right that the trucks run warmer, especially with all of you in it, with the heater running and the pretty insulated cabin. With all of that and no wind chill, it's not hard to at least doze. When the truck comes to a stop, you stir, drawing in a deep and sleepy breath as you blink sleep from your eyes. Dave has twisted around in his seat, his arms slung over the seat bench. You realize that his hand is on your knee, and he must have gently shaken you to wake you up.
Hey, come watch me drive, Dave whispers.
You nod and sit up. After you straighten your clothes out, you open the door to the truck, whining as the cold air hits you. You hop out, close the door, and make your way around the front. On the way, you pass Lank, who nods at you as you go by him. When you reach the other side, you see Dave stretching in the snow, the move he's doing almost like that yoga you saw him doing before. The truck following you has stopped for the same reason, and you can see people changing over.
You get in first, hop in the middle. I just need to wake up properly,
Dave explains. That makes sense. You open the door and climb up into the driver's seat, only pausing when you hear a crunch behind you. Twisting around, you jump to see Dave face down in the snow. You're about to get out and see what happened when he scrambles to his feet. In a hurry, he turns around to you and basically shoves you across the seat bench.
Oh, wow, I'm awake now,
Dave whispers, there's snow in his hair.
You're completely insane,
you remind him and buckle in. To your right, Marcy has her legs crossed at the ankle with her hat tipped low over her eyes, and you try to remember to keep your voice down. Dave adjusts a few things and then starts driving. The cab of the truck is fully dark now, but Dave is looking out of the window, entirely unconcerned by the darkness. Sure, the truck has headlights, but they don't light up much. Your eyes see in the dark, too? You ask him curiously, though you suspect that you know the answer.
Yeah, my distance vision is pretty good. When it's true darkness, I struggle to get as much detail, but I've been told it's still better than troll night vision. It does mean I get stuck with driving at night a lot, though,
Dave says casually. You falter, not knowing if you should say what you're thinking. At your side, Marcy is in a deep sleep, and Lank is yawning and snuggling down into the collar of his jacket, as Daja and Conil are fast asleep still.
You? Dave prompts you.
Feel free to tell me to drop it if this is too invasive of a question, but you getting your eyes replaced. You start slowly.
I had to. My old vision wouldn't have passed the physical, and I needed to be able to come out here to balance properly,
Dave answers. There's no balancers anywhere that only stay on the ship? Not on any ship anywhere? You ask.
Well, if it's a temporary thing, like an injury or something that means you can't safely fly anymore, like what happened to Sam, then sure. But it means that you're leaning more on the others to carry that burden for you instead of being able to change out when you need to. So, unless there's a real good reason to not be a sailor, you pretty much always are. Which means I needed eyes that worked. It wasn't really negotiable. Dave explains.
That sounds rough. You frown.
The surgery didn't really hurt all that much, and Equius is a great doctorist. He knows I'm twitchy about medical stuff, and he's really good. His mentor was the one that did my surgery, but Equius was helping as a resident back then, and now he's my full-time doc, and he's great. It wasn't that rough at all. Learning to see properly was kind of weird, but it meant that I could pass the physical, so I was good. Dave assures you.
That's not what I meant. Equius skipping grades and fast-tracking it through the bionic surgery part of the medical career isn't what I'm concerned with. I just meant it's rough that you had to do it.
You explain. It's not...
Dave pauses a moment to negotiate the truck around a tricky rock formation. If you didn't have to become a sailor and didn't need the eyes to pass the test, would you have changed your eyes out? Terezi's still blind and does her job, and you and her were always pretty similar like that. You elaborate. To be entirely honest, Terezi would bite your throat out with her teeth if you suggested she fix her vision. It was different between her and you. She never saw her blindness as a setback, even if it did have its drawbacks now and then. With your bipolar, you medicate it to stop it, killing you or making your life hell, but you're not cured. It's just how your think sponge is wired and the dumb job it does regulating its own neurochemicals. To be honest, if you were offered a total fix, you don't even know what that'd look like for you, if you'd take it or not. You can't imagine being put in a position where you were offered that choice and it wasn't really a choice. Dave remains silent for long enough that you think he's not going to answer and you went too far in asking, but eventually he does.
It's hard remembering a before all of this for me, but no, I probably wouldn't have changed my eyes. I still had some vision back then, even if it was really shitty, but now if my eyes stop working, I've got nothing at all. They need constant upkeep and all that shit. Sometimes I have goth tears or other weird things. I was fine without them, but things aren't different. They are how they are. Besides, I can turn them off when I want. Usually, I do that when I'm with Terezi. Dave says quietly.
I'm sorry that choice was taken from you. You offer him quietly. Dave doesn't say anything to that, so you simply continue along, driving through the dark and the snow. You play a futile game of I Spy, which burns out pretty quickly after the guesses of snow, ice, rock, the dark. You talk through the plans of what you're going to do when you get to Alpha Base, although, to be fair for you, that's going to be getting everything booted up and running again. Then, no doubt, people will bring you in things that aren't working right, and you'll end up running a tech surgery like Cooper was. Dave is the one who's got to go out and snow shovel the shuttle landing pad, because when you're landing with a lot of fuel, it's a good idea to not screw that up as wildly as your shuttle ended up doing. It's still nighttime when you finally pull into Alpha Base, and you're sleepy and warm in the truck, so much so that you think you'll actually be glad for the cold to wake you up a little. Not that you're gonna leap face down into it like Dave did before. You lean around the back of the seat and nudge the others awake. Dave finds a good spot to park the truck and waits for the other one to park up next to you before hopping outside.
You go inside and see what you can get started. We'll unload, Astasha suggests.
By myself? What if there's angry alien life in there? You ask in alarm.
You have the comms channel and absurdly powerful psionics. Also, we can read your signature on here. I promise you that we're not abandoning you,
Dave says, pointing to the display on his sleeve. You hesitate for a moment, and Dave rests a hand on your shoulder.
Look, be proactive. You go be the angry alien life in there, Dave says, deliberately teasing you.
Fuck you, you snap back, and he grins at you.
That's the spirit, Dave laughs.
Right. Fine, you don't need a grub sitter to do your job. Alpha Base looks basically identical to Omega Base, which makes sense. You walk up to the front door and press the button only for it to do nothing at all. Great. Problems from the get-go, huh? Looking at it, you can't see that the panel is damaged or anything, so you're going to guess this is a power issue. You peel your winter glove off of your hand and then unseam and peel off your thermal undersuit's glove. The cold smacks into your skin, something fierce, so you huff warm air on your fingers to keep them warm as you psionically pry the lock open. As soon as it's open, you press your fingers to the console and send a psionic spark through it. The lock lights up, and you use your free hand to press for entry, and the door willingly slides open. Your hand, however, is stuck to the wiring on the door. Right. You breathed on your hands to keep them warm, which meant moisture on your fingers, which then touched below freezing metal, and your fingers are frozen to the lock. You're absolutely not gonna call for help. You'll be fine. You weren't that attached to that skin anyway. You take a few quick breaths to steady your nerves and then yank your hand free with a sharp enough stab of pain that you make an embarrassing squeak of pain. The last time you felt something like that was when you were younger and Kanaya convinced you to let her wax your eyebrows into a different shape for some costume party, which definitely wasn't worth it, and after she'd done the first, you couldn't let her not do the second. Your eyebrows are a perfectly fine sharp shape, naturally, but the small round shape that Aradia called bean brows was kinda cool. Definitely not worth the pain, though. No way. Anyway, you now have the door open, and all it took was some of your dignity in your skin. Besides, no one else saw, so you're fine. You step inside, putting your outer gloves back on, but keeping your undersuit's glove off for now. You're smart to do it, because the next panel gives you the same problem. The power is definitely out to the base as a whole. That said, you can still pick up some signatures from Alpha Base, which means that some stuff must be running on some kind of backup. That's reassuring, at least. After opening several doors, without making the same skin-sacrificing mistake, and stopping to locate your light on your suit, you manage to find your way to the generator. It's using gasoline to get the main power, because if nothing else, it's reasonably reliable, although you're sure there's a solar panel or two up here, as well as some wind turbines too. Then again, that might be what's powering the things that are on, and the base's doors and heating just weren't a priority with no one here. With the generator restarted, you can throw the lights and heating back on, though it'll be a good while until it's back up to a proper level of heat. Whoever your predecessor was, they left you a paper note about a few things on the base. Notes about some parts that are fiddly, as well as any passcodes that might still be on things. Certainly a courtesy you can appreciate. You've just finished rebooting the base's computer systems, having had to unscramble a few things, when Dave walks in.
The whole mine is just seized up. I don't even know how we're getting into there,
Dave says as he looks in at you. You nod and pull up the log for the mine exit and immediately see the problem. One of the mine trucks had a software crash and managed to block the way, and the basic AI running everything else glitched the fuck out and basically filled the rest of the track behind with ore and whatever else it was extracting. You psionically pull your bag out and rummage through it until you find the thumb drive that you wrote your repair virus on. The one that you talked to Roxy and Dirk about before. If you can get one of these things fixed, then hopefully the rest will start evening out, as long as it's basic problems. It won't help hardware problems, but it'll be a good start. I wrote a virus. A good one, I mean. I think this might... You plug it into your Husktop and run the program. With that done, you get up and walk to Dave with your repair kit in hand. "Show me the mine. I think this might work," you say. Dave leads the way out of Alpha Base, and you make sure to shut all the doors after you so the heating has some chance to get going properly. The sky is getting a little lighter now, though it's not sunrise properly yet. It's still something of a relief to see, though. Dave leads you down a hill along a gritty path until you can see the dimly lit mine entrance. The mine truck is offline. That much is pretty clear to anyone, and the tunnel around it is completely impacted with debris. What a mess. You crawl as close to the truck as you can get and plug your tablet into a port that you have to dig free to get to. The software is corrupted to shit, but it's no problem to strip everything out and reinstall it all. You let it patch and give the battery a jump start. By the time you get back to your tablet, it's nearly done. A few seconds more and it pings happily. You pull your tablet free and step back. You set the truck going again with the touch of the button, and the huge machine rumbles to life and starts driving away on its predetermined route. "That's great. Now we have to dig this out," Connell says, with the unhappy tone of someone who sees hours of shoveling and heavy lifting in front of her. You watch as the truck trudges up the hill and unloads its cargo into a shipping container. The platform the container is on senses that it's full and sets out a set of pistons, sliding platforms, and more to shuffle the full container away into a large stack and replaces an empty one in its place. You look back at the impacted mine thoughtfully. You got an idea. With a gesture, you whip the empty container into the air, bringing it down into a clear space behind you. Then you turn towards the mine and plant your boots firmly.
What are you doing?
Dave asks you curiously from his place at the mine entrance. Fixing the block, you answer. Psionically, you reach out and feel the edges of the mess of debris and ore in the mine and purposefully pull it free. You can't do it all in one go, of course. It's more like a stream of material. Hunks of shining ore and deep, dark clumps of whatever valuable thing was mined out. Chunk by chunk, you ease it out over your head with a sweep of your hand all into the shipping container. Moving so many little parts is taxing, so you end up falling into a deep kind of focus as you shift everything, but in minutes you have the mine clear, and maybe about... God, you don't know how many tons of stuff, but a lot, and it's all packed into the shipping container now. With that cleared, you can see the bots, trucks, and everything else waiting patiently. You pull your tablet up once more and give your virus another go. Throughout the mine shaft, you hear a robotic chorus of startup noises, and then, just like that, everything hums back to life and starts moving. You just need to move the shipping container back to where you got it now. That'll trigger the mechanism to move it, and everything can be back where it should be. You hoist the container up into the air and sail it through the sky until you can lower it into place, which sets the moving platforms off again, and the loaded container is off on its way.
Oh, damn, that's way easier,
Peniel says emphatically.
I'm not even mad. That was something for sure,
Astasha concedes.
You're a little mad,
Peniel teases.
I said I wasn't, Astasha says tersely. He sounds a little mad, at least. You are, though,
Peniel insists.
Seriously, man, you're amazing. Thanks.
Dave smiles, and fuck, you know you've no right to think it, but that's more than reward enough for you.
Ugh, you're smitten, and it's disgusting. You're officially disgusted with yourself.
Damn it, but he looks so proud of you. You can't help it.
He looked super cool doing that, too,
Dave adds, because you didn't actually say anything back, did you? Well, you know, it's my job, or whatever. I'm going back inside where it's slightly warmer. There's plenty broken in there still. If you find anything else out here, either bring it to me or call me out and I'll fix it. You say, and without waiting for an answer, you fly up into the air and off towards the base. Oh, the sun rose while you were doing all of that. You weren't just saying you had things to fix. You really do still have work to do. Plenty of stuff in the base is a little askew. Fuses blown here and there that need replacing, valves on things having gone funny in the cold. You essentially have to go around the whole place, testing everything as you go. Eventually, Dave finds you again and sits you down to a meal that Canel's cooked, and then when you've eaten it, he drags you upstairs. You're a little surprised to find yourself in another two-person respite block like before, only now you're actually staying here. It was one thing in the business of Omega Base where everyone was already settled, but now he's chosen to room with you, sought you out even. Sure, you're his responsibility while you're here, but even so. The dumb thing is that you can feel that if this was one of Karkat's beloved romance movies, this would be some big indication that the love interest really did have feelings for the protagonist, namely you. That's not what's happening here. For one thing, you definitely don't feel like a protagonist of any kind. If anyone here has main character energy, it's Dave. Secondly, Dave might have feelings for you, but you know damn well that they're platonic because he's just a good friend. Maybe this is the kind of movie where it's movie genres. Not a coming-of-age movie, because you're both adults and have been for a while, but you had a big life change and now you have feelings and Dave helped you feel better. This could be a touching finding who you really are movie with a friend. You certainly don't want to paint Dave as just your love interest, because he's so much more real than that, and he's not your manic pixie dream girl here to drag you into a whirlwind adventure because you're sad. This isn't that kind of thing. You have problems, and it's selfish to expect other people to fix them for you just because you like them.
Are you okay? You got a hell of a scowl on there. Or is what Dad told me all these years really true, that if you pull faces, they'll stick that way? Dave asks. What? No, how would that... No, I was just thinking about movies and I got really mad about it. Kinda wish Carcat was here to talk to about it. You admit. The number of times I've thought that. Carcat's great for entertainment. You can just give him something and he'll run with it into a full tirade. I'm never bored around him. Dave laughs, and he has a point. Yeah, I think I'm probably just tired, even though I'm pretty sure I would have just kept going if you hadn't made me eat. You admit. And sleep. Sleeping is what we're doing now. You did a lot already, Dave reminds you. The perfectionist streak in you wants to have done it all already, but you try to ignore that. Dave has at some point grabbed clothes for you, and the heating in the base has warmed enough that you can take your undersuit off fully for the first time since you got here. You waste no time into changing into something a little more relaxed, but Dave stops you before you go to get into bed. I should clean those for you, he explains. You don't catch what he means until he touches your hand. Oh, right, the tattoos. Dave leads you to his bed, and you sit down on it as he gets his kit out and unwraps a few things. He gently peels back the film over the middle finger of your right hand and quickly wipes it clean for you. Your skin is still a little yellow and angry, but mostly it looks fine. You wonder how it looks to people who can't see the glow of it. I have this policy, Dave says slowly as he continues cleaning your tattoo. With what? You ask. With my eyes. I can record things that I see, which I sometimes do that if someone's showing me the steps to use a machine or tie a knot I don't know or something, but I don't keep footage or images of people that's actually them without their consent. I had to hand over the stuff with those animals, but that was mission related, Dave explains. I don't mind that, you tell him. Right, but He hesitates for a moment and then reaches for his palm husk. He taps at it for a moment and then turns it around to show you. It's a picture of you. You're standing in the snow, your breath haloing around you, and the sunset just dawning behind you. Above you, there's this arc of floating debris and rubble. The whole thing is almost like a painting or something. Staring at yourself in the picture is really disorienting. You're aware that your psionics can be cool, and you're aware of how you look. It's still you, and there's no distortion or anything. You just look different. Maybe you're just seeing yourself how he sees you. It's definitely not how you see yourself when you look in the mirror. Even with your moments of self-confidence now and then, you've thought, at times, you could be attractive or even hot. You've thought that some of your features are nice. Never have you ever seen yourself as the focus of something like that, like a subject of a painting, like something worthy of awe. It looked really cool, and with the sun and everything, I just didn't want to keep it if you weren't cool with that. The fact that I've got cameras in my face doesn't mean that everyone should be worried about me recording them all the time, and I hate being observed like that, so I'm not going to...
Dave goes on. It's fine. I don't mind. I've never seen a picture of me like this before, though. You tell him gently, and Dave relaxes.
It was a sight to see, for sure.
Dave agrees quietly and smooths a new layer of film over your cleaned finger. He holds his hand out for your other hand, and you willingly hand it over. Dave carefully takes the current film off of that hand's tattooed finger and delicately cleans it. Guilt bubbles in your chest, because him being like this with you makes your feelings for him so much harder to ignore. You know you're friends, and you like that. You know he cares for his friends, and you know that he feels responsible for you on this mission. He tattooed you, so he's being careful to take care of you. You know all of that. But him holding your hand, the way he treats you with care, that he showed you that picture because he respects your privacy, and that he thought you were worth a picture beforehand, are all romantic. At least to you, anyway. They read as some kind of quadrant, that's for sure. The caring for your tattooed hands is probably inching pale, but basically this feels red to you. It's not that. You know it. You know it in your head, and from the bittersweet ache in your chest, you know it emotionally, too. He's not your mate's Brit, and that's fine. He's happy. He's your friend, and you're happy that he is. It would just be so easy to imagine more.
There. Normally I'd say you could air it out, but given the temperatures we're dealing with, you're probably going to need to keep it covered so it can heal. Maybe tomorrow night you can let it air.
Dave tells you when he finally lets your hand go. Right. Yeah. I'm gonna go brush my teeth. You nod. Both because you have to do that and because you need an out from this situation. You lock yourself in the ablution block and rest your head against the door. You wish Karkat was here. You wish you could talk to him. But fuck, doesn't that just bring up more frustrated feelings? You're pale for Karkat just as badly as you're red for Dave. The fact that there's red and you're pale with Karkat and black and you're red for Dave is apparently not even chief among your problems here. You fumble for your palm husk and open Trollian. Karkat's not reachable, of course. He's too far away, and you don't have access to send a message like that on the channels that are open, so you can talk to him, but you're talking to an empty Trollian channel. Fuck it. It's all you have. I wish I could talk to you, KK, but you're a stupid number of miles away. I knew I'd be around Dave so much on this mission because he had to be responsible for me since I'm not a full sailor. But I didn't anticipate how it'd make everything worse. KK, I'm so flushed for him, it's stupid. It's not even like being his friend is a second place prize because it's not, and I want him to be with Jade because she makes him happy, and I want that, but without her here yet and him being around so much, I could almost... God, this is awful. I'm the worst. But it almost feels like things could be like this with me and him if he was my mate's Brit instead of hers. It's so selfish and awful, and I never do anything or say anything to get in the way of them being together. Fuck knows someone deserves to have a functional long-term relationship and everything, and I definitely don't think of him as some achievement or prize to be won. That's shitty. But he's so nice to me, KK, and we get on, and I don't know. I don't want to steal him away from Jade so he's mine, but I wish I was his. Fuck, you're gonna get this when I get back into range, and I think you might have thought I was dead, which sucks, and I'm sorry, and this definitely isn't the message you wanted, I'm sure. And this is a spam of text. TLDR, I would like to unsubscribe from emotions, please. That feels a little better, but it doesn't help you with the feelings you have for Karkat, because you have to have 2 hopeless attractions in your life, don't you? You sigh and get ready for bed, brushing your teeth, washing your face, all that. When you return to your shared room, you find a ball of blankets on Dave's bed, and only when you get closer can you see his head just peeking out of the top. You comfortable in there? You ask, barely restraining a laugh. I'm cozy and comfy. Also, I'm accepting no criticism. Can you get the light? I don't want to get up. Dave mumbles. You climb into your own bed and psionically flip the lights off. Your day was long, and you fall asleep almost immediately. You will deny to your last breath that you had any half-formed dreams that were just you dozing in bed with 2 very familiar forms, despite the lingering feeling of human warmth on one side and smooth, round, nubby horns under your chin on the other. It never happened. When morning comes, the entirety of Alpha Base, which is like 12 people right now, gets together to eat and discuss the day's plans.
We have 6 hours until Shuttle 1 lands, as the arrangement stands at the moment. The weather report seems to be good from the satellite, so as long as we keep the landing pad clear and have all the tech working there, we should be able to deal with whatever happens, as Dasha explains. We won't be of much help there. We're gonna venture deeper into the mines and readjust the geophys tech deeper to reflect how much progress was made since the original team left. That way we can better direct the mining operation,
one of the scientists says. I want to investigate the local cliffs. It's possible we might have to do some above-ground mining there. There was an avalanche risk there before, but since the last team was here, there's been an avalanche off to the side, so it should be safe, but I'd need company, another adds. I'll go with you, Lunk offers with a nod.
Great, so if any of you need tech help, get on the helpline and Solix will have your back. The rest of us, I guess, are just sorting out the landing pad and tech, and if we have time, we can move on to the space elevator. Obviously, we can't launch it when the shuttle's incoming, but we can get everything else ready to go.
Dave explains. Everyone seems in agreement, so you finish up your meal and get your bag set up with the things you're going to need to carry in your day-to-day operations. Rations in case something goes wrong, basic survival gear, your repair kit, all of that. Not that you're in any real danger, since if you're outside of Alpha Base, you've got to be stuck to Dave's side the whole time. Whoever started on the landing platform had basically finished the job, it turns out. You're able to communicate with the space station just fine, and everything else, in fact, everything, is perfectly fine. I have a question, you ask as you slide your tablet away.
Ask it, ye shall receive. Answers. Well, hopefully I can answer your question. I think I might have built myself up a little there. I'm not omniscient, Dave says.
Disappointing, you tut.
I sincerely apologize, Dave says regretfully.
Anyway, my question was about sailors and how you're all kind of superstitious. You start again.
We're not, Cannell snorts. Well, I think that a lot of that perception is probably due to those of us who are aware of the effects of the void, so our behavior might seem irrational to other people, Astasha says thoughtfully. It is an easy excuse to use, Dave agrees.
Right, so my question is, if I was to say something, would that be unlucky? Specifically about how everything is working and things are going... You say, "Don't!" They all yell at you at once. Right, so I can't make an observation like that about how things are going. Got it. This is why I asked, you say with a roll of your eyes. Not superstitious, your ass. They absolutely are.
Look, there's superstition, then there's just shooting neon lights and confetti cannons in the air as you dance around with a big sign asking for it on your chest. Tempting fate is just dumb, Dave points out, as if fate is an actual force in the universe like gravity.
Still, you know to bite your tongue on the matter. With the landing pad secured, you head over to the space elevator, which is a short snowmobile ride away, or in the case of you and Astasha, a short flight away. The tech that makes the space elevator work is pretty goddamn cool. Each bundle of shipping containers is sealed together onto a platform and hauled up on a cable into space, which is way more energy efficient than using rockets with traditional fuel. Then the platform gets to the top where it'll be tethered to the space station. The station will unload it and send the platform back around again. The space station and the few people who are staying up there from Shuttle 1 essentially just use a small fuel charge to shoot the cargo in zero gravity towards the ship, and on its return, the Atuan will grab each delivery up like a game of Pac-Man. You spend several hours fixing the parts that aren't working and getting as much done as you can before the landing window gets close enough that you have to go back to the landing pad with the others. There's a distant barrier and an almost dug-out area that you're all sat in waiting for the shuttle. Marsty is the one coordinating with the space station and Shuttle 1 as they run through various checks to perfect the landing right. Dave is perched on the top with his tablet out, typing away. What is that? It's not Trollian, you ask as you peek over at his screen.
It's not. Well, it's a sort of reskinned version for balancers. We use it to put out calls for checks and balances, essentially regular maintenance to make sure the ship is doing right, and when we're on other ships or near other crews, we can talk to our counterparts there even if we don't personally know them. Right now, I'm trying to get everything set up with Aradia, Dave explains.
You can reach her from here with your ghost magic? You ask him in surprise.
It's not... You know what, never mind. No, I can't, but the closer she gets, the more I will. There's not really any danger coming down to a planet as far as the balance goes, but given how everything has been going lately, we're not taking any chances,
Dave explains. How does it actually work, though? You said about checks and balances. What's that, really? You press him. Dave sighs and lowers his tablet, taking a moment to think before answering you.
The balance between past and future needs to be even, like a seesaw. If it's level, we're pretty well hidden from the void. Our job is to do that. Regularly, we take turns actively checking how things are. We usually have a general feel of it all the time, but you can get distracted, and it's better to have a schedule for it. So, I can run a check where I really focus and see how things are. I'll then call out to Aradia or Fazer to essentially double-check what I found, because sometimes your own emotional state can skew things. If me or Gamzee have been all in our heads about our past, we might see things as more our way than they really are, so you get another perspective. Dave explains.
Oh, so me breaking up with Aradia, you trail off. This is why the four of them were meeting up to talk about her life.
It affected her balancing, yeah. Essentially, her reads were really off for a while. The second part is the balance, where if we've both seen something is amiss, we join up with the other balancer and recalibrate everything. When Aradia was off, she was sort of clumsy at it, not pulling hard enough or pulling too hard. It's not her fault, and she's mostly level again now. Not that I mind. Me and Aradia always work well together. Dave explains.
You look down into the dugout and listen. It seems the shuttle is getting closer now.
Alright, Radia's nearly in range.
Dave trails off and looks up from his tablet to the sky above. You stare at him as the light seems to go from his eyes, and he somehow starts to look unreal. You're struggling to place it. It's like he's badly photoshopped into reality. Then you realize that the shadows on him don't make sense. They don't match up with how the light actually hits him, or even make sense when you look at different parts of his body. There's too much shadow, and it's all wrong. Dave opens his mouth and starts to sing.
I thought I heard the old man say.
You feel a moment of free fall, like you're in a ride that's dropped but you've not caught up yet, and so it's almost like you've gone upwards and hit the safety bars of the seat. Whatever safety is tethering you snaps, and you're pulled away on the tide of the shadow on every syllable of Dave's song. You are someone else, somewhere else, dark and stormy, a ghost of synapses past, and you slip from bones bored through by parasitic wires that killed their host. You slip free and roll through the ship untethered like smoke. You jump to the wiring and flicker through the ship in the blink of an eye. You condense angry and sparking across her ceiling. Your former captor's room, how fitting. Now the current but less royal tyrant resides here in a treasure trove of her own making. You flash and thunder rolls through you as you drift to her. You hate her so much and you'd kill her if you could, but you can't. So you're going to make her every moment hell, her and her fucking descendants. Her weak senses detect something and she looks up, 8 pupils flickering around nervously. You wait until then to make her mirror explode. It won't kill her, probably won't maim her, but she hates it, and that's enough for you. You slip through the walls and coalesce in the lab. One of the alien subjects sees you and starts screaming. You've never done anything to him, but whatever their scienterrorist did, he can see you now. You don't speak whatever language he does, and you don't care either. You do care about the alarm going off on the scienterrorist's desk, though. The last thing you want is to be helpful to that monster, so you jolt away through the power grid again. You appear in the helms block again. Your descendant's eyes flicker up to you, but he's too tired and too young to be there. You've heard them talk. He's not going to make it. Good for him. You drift lower and settle around him in a dark mist of yourself, the shape of your body so long forgotten. You try to apologize to him like you've tried to before, but you don't even remember how to do words anymore. The only thing keeping you together is the rage and vengeance. You're not even sure there's anything left of you but that, but you try. He must have come from some time you had with the 2 people you loved most, and you can't regret any of those moments, but you're so sorry that he's here, that for one good memory for you and a few moments of satisfaction, he now exists in this endless agony. Well, soon-to-be ending agony, at least.
We swear by our oath for want of more.
The tuna whines, you don't know why. Whether it's the helm, his situation, or you, it's hard to say. The noise still summons the smallest one of that monster's progeny, coming over with her tablet and pushing her glasses up to look at him. She starts to make some excuse, though the words, not that you can understand them now or care to. You're contemplating expending a lot of energy to make blood appear on her hands, because that always makes her scream and freak out. Only suddenly she looks up at you, ghosting Matuna's senses to get a better picture of you. You hiss at first, and then feel that her focus isn't on you. You turn, trying to follow where she's looking, only to feel this thing, like a biowire burrowing, only not. Something strange, and for a second you can catch music, Alternian words being sung ever so faintly.
Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is long and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her.
She looks through you, through that, and her lips move and Mituna's blood pusher races as 2 syllables exit her mouth. Solux. A word out loud so strange and forgotten to you, but you turn it over in the vagueness of the idea of hands and you stare at that connection. You reach for it and jump like you used to through space as the helmsman. For a fraction of a second, you're there, staring at a face like your own as his eyes roll back and he keels backwards into the snow. An alien rushes to him and the connection fades, leaving you back with Mituna and a sense of confusion in your hazy being. Mituna's internal logs, filled with thoughts stolen from his think pan, scrawl the word over and over and over. Solux.